Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to issue 12 of the Comics in the Cross podcast. The greatest streamers you have never heard of. I, of course, am one of your co-hosts, as always, Cross, along with my colleague, my partner in crime, my brother in arms, Nitro.
What's up, everybody?
How y'all
Happy
doing
Sunday.
today? Yeah, happy Sunday, everyone. It's a beautiful, sunny Sunday here. It's not death personified with humidity this week, which is very nice.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the no humidity.
Yeah, and we got to experience a bit of it yesterday, and Nitro actually came over yesterday, and we started putting together a kind of jungle gym play area for my kids out the back, and yeah, best did not bad considering we had a couple of setbacks, but it was actually not bad.
How many dads does it take to put together a playset?
More than us, apparently.
Apparently more than two.
It's like the amount of times we put the wrong size, like screws into things, we put stuff together in the wrong order, stuff wasn't fitting together quite correctly, but you know what, we got like halfway through the project in a couple of hours.
Yeah, I think we got like 55.9% of it done.
Yeah, so it actually looks not bad considering, you know, it's like there's not that much left to go. We actually did a fairly decent job of it, so.
Yeah, considering two comic geeks put together a play set.
Yeah,
I think we did a pretty good job.
I think we did good. We're not exactly known for our DIY stuff, so I think we did a fairly decent job. Just FYI, like Nitro or Comic Clan, if you guys can hear like my fan too loudly, let me know. I got my fan on like full power in this room because this room gets like no air conditioning.
I can hear it. It's not distracting though.
No, if it gets too distracting or if it's too loud or if you can't hear us over it, guys, then just please let me know about the fan because like I can survive if I turn it off. Like it's just as nicer to have it on because it's like it really does get warm in here. Like the air.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, and I'm just saying, like, I've got an air conditioning thing, like, practically right above me, but nothing comes through it, like, at all, so.
I know you talked about this last week, but I just want to give you kudos again, man. The layout looks fantastic with the blue. I love it.
Hey, Infinity Bros, how you doing, guys? And Infinity Bros popping and saying, sup, guys? Massive shout out, the Infinity Bros are actually the reason we are coming on early today. Because we're actually going to be meeting up with them tonight to record their podcast for this week. And they have graciously invited us on the podcast. We are so excited to come and chat with them and connect with them. You guys have, you know, if you've been watching for a while, you met Isaac a few weeks ago, and when we talked about MCU Phase 1. So definitely go and check that video out on our YouTube page.
Agreed, Infinity Bros. I think it looks great. We were just talking about that.
Layout looks great, and like, thank you so much. Like, yeah, because like the grey and the red was like a basic thing I threw together, and I'm like, it's really not eye catching at all. So I decided to kind of fiddle around with it, and yeah, the blue I tried to match the blue that Nitro had used for like our headers and stuff like that. Yeah, I was actually going to mention that as well. So like right above me, you can see the Gamer Grind Co logo has actually been shifted over kind of above Nitro now, for the Unashamed Network. If you're watching on Twitch, it will not say the team name below us just yet. It still says Spock Nation. There you go. You got it. It still says Spock Nation because they've not sent out the official invite via Twitch. But I did get the official confirmation email to the Comics in the Cross email address with the logos and stuff like that saying that we were part of Unashamed Network and that we could utilise it. So I wanted to throw it up there. Shout out to Unashamed Network. Amazing network of streamers here on Twitch and over on Mixer as well. That are all Christian streamers in various forms, so it's like it's an honor to be included as part of that. So yeah, I wanted to show some, you know, rep some Unashamed awesome. Network here. So that was pretty awesome, big news for this week. While I'm doing some shout outs, so let me throw them in. I need to create a link for this. I've not created one for Unashamed Network yet. Unashamed Network actually have a network, if I can spell, a Twitch page, so go ahead, give them a follow over there. They don't stream much themselves, but they host a lot of like Christian streamers and stuff as part of their team channel, so go and check them out. Also, I want to give another massive shout out. Last week we gave a massive shout out to Behaving Beardly, so if you're still not followed him, give him a follow. But this week we got hey, thank you Ads, thank you for now hosting. Welcome along to the channel, bud, for our 12th podcast. We actually got an amazing kind of shout out with a guy who I started following. He actually found us on Twitter and liked some of our stuff, so I started following. So I'm going to throw his link in there. It's Gid Kid Dad, And no, I'm not saying that with an accent. It's GIDKIDDAD. Hey, Katari. Thank you, Kit. Thank you for coming along and hosting us. I really appreciate it, guys. So go and give I'm gonna say go give Katari a follow as well. She's actually rocking. Her channel's awesome. She plays a variety of stuff on there, but yeah, she's a lot of fun. Been watching her play through The Last of Us recently and some of her Minecraft stuff. So yeah, definitely go and give Katari a follow. She's rocking as well. But I want to give a shout out to Gid Kid Dad. I put his link in the chat there. He's an awesome streamer. He does a lot of variety stuff. Black Widow might answer. I'm going to be chilling and listening while I game. Awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out, and by all means lurking the channel. Hope you enjoy the show. So yeah, there you go. Katari, favorite superhero, Black Widow. Yeah, she's become a lot of people's favorites actually recently. Like a lot of people, I think the MCU really like elevated her profile. A lot of people really love Black Widow now. You know, I still stand by my thing. I think it's a little late for the Black Widow movie. That should have came a lot sooner.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with that though, with the movie.
But at the same time, I'm glad she's getting some praise and love because she's a cool character, you know. But yeah, go give can't even say it in there. Kid Dad a follow. He does a lot of variety streaming. He also does some singing on his channel, some different stuff. But he's created a community where he does a lot of. It allows a lot of streamers to share their stuff while during the stream and to connect and to follow each other, to help build each other up. From the moments I was in his stream, he was resharing our link to our page and like building us up and getting other people to connect. So we actually got a bunch of followers in the last couple of weeks because of Behaving Beardly, who we shouted out last week, and for Kid Dad, who shouted us out this week. So we're actually at like 84, 85 followers, something like that now. So so massive shout out to him. If you're part of the Comic Clan, go give him a follow. He's an awesome guy. You'll enjoy his streams. He's a lot of fun. But yeah, the two of them have done a massive thing in helping us build up our community in the last couple of weeks. So I greatly appreciate that. Speaking of that as well, we are officially starting our journey on the road to 100 followers. The road to 100 has kicked off. We need 25 followers. No, 15 followers. Paul can't do math. Yeah, so like
well, I could have told you that.
Thanks man. Thanks. That's a love and appreciation I get here. So we need about 15, 16 followers, depending if it's 84 or 85. We've got to hit that 100 mark. Unlike getting affiliate, there's nothing big that comes along with that one. But I just want to shout that out as that's our next big goal. Reaching 100 followers. It's the next big goal. It's a pretty big deal. So anything that Comic Clan can do to help us reach that goal, whether it's to share us on social media, whether it's sharing this, sharing our YouTube channel, doing hosts like Katari and Ads have done for us today. Again, thank you for those hosts, guys. Anything that you can do to help with that, we absolutely appreciate it. Alright, so a little bit of housekeeping again at the beginning, although I've kind of already started that. As I mentioned earlier, Gamer Grind Co. still our amazing sponsors. I'm getting withdrawals now. I'm still waiting for that order for that new order to come in. I'm getting withdrawals, man. Ooh, Nightbot's doing fancy stuff. I highlighted that in red for some reason. I have no idea why. I don't know why I highlighted that in red, but I'm assuming that's a good thing. I hope. But click on that. I don't know if it's doing it on the channel, but it's doing it in it's doing it in Streamlabs for me, and I'm like, okay,
whatever.
I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that's just a thing it's doing for me now. I don't know. But yeah, go and click on that link to get some amazing coffee. Gamer Grind Co., the #1 coffee for gamers. Hashtag on that grind, as we always are with the show. These guys have been an amazing sponsor for us. They're absolutely legendary. Great work ethic, great product that they put out. Absolutely adore their coffee. And if you use the code Comics in the Cross, you will save 5% on any purchase, and that's on coffee and on any merchandise that you buy there as well. And some of that merchandise is even Comics in the Cross merchandise, including our coffee mug and sticker, which of course, why wouldn't you want to enjoy your coffee out of the coffee and out of the Comics in the Cross, you know? The link is purple on my screen. Yeah, it's weird, like the link's popping up purple for me as well, but like the actual post from Nightbot with the stuff for Gamer Grind is like in a little red, it's like highlighted red in the background. I don't know why. I don't know if that's just in Streamlabs, but it's never done that before, so I don't know if Streamlabs just updated or what. As we also shout out our merchandise, you of course can also buy some Comics in the Cross merchandise, because why wouldn't you want to buy Comics in the Cross merchandise? We're awesome.
Leggings.
Yep.
I'm saying.
Nitro is pushing these leggings. He wants these leggings sold there, and it's like,
I have a goal to sell 10 pairs of leggings by the end of the month. I'm sure. That's not.
I'm gonna say by the end of the month. You're good luck in that. We've not shifted a pair yet, and like in the next 2 weeks, you think, yeah, we're going to shift 10 of them. It's like, if you desperately want the leggings and you want to buy 10 pairs, we are greatly appreciative. You can buy them in multiple colours, so you can have them in different things. But we have the Comics to Cross leggings, obviously, the t-shirt, the hoodie, and we also have the poster from the Superhero Square Go that we did a few episodes ago, with a poster created by our very own Nitro. It's available for purchase now, so if you want to pop in there and buy some merchandise. We're also working on a Comic Clan t-shirt, so you can rep being part of the Comic Clan, because of course you want to show you're part of the Comic Clan. Why wouldn't you want to show that? You know, it's a great community, it's awesome. So yeah, go ahead and check that stuff out there, guys. Also, we are halfway through June now. We're hitting June 14th. That means we've got about just over 2 weeks left till we hit the end of the month. That means if you want a chance to be in with winning our giveaway, I'll try that again and actually spell give away properly and not miss the A in the middle of it. There we go. If you want to be in a chance with winning our amazing giveaway of, let me pull it up. This of course, as we've said before, is not the completed piece of artwork. This is about 20 of the Batman busts. Nitro's putting together an amazing original piece of artwork featuring 30 Batman busts of a variety of Batman costumes, Batman from multiverse, different dimensions, different timelines, different genres, whether it's comic, TV, you know, cartoon.
And the goal is to have like possibly a semi-finished product done by next week sometime. Not this coming week, but the following week. So that way people can see what they're going to be getting their hands on.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to get as close to a completed product as we can before we do the official draw, so you can see fully what you're winning. But this is part of it. This is like the first part of it, with another 10 Batman to be added. And we've had a lot of people interested in it. Infinity Bros saying, dude, which just really adds to the fact that you're called the Infinity Bros right there. Just saying.
Dude.
But that amazing piece of artwork is going to be up for grabs. The cutoff to be part of the giveaway is at the end of June. June 30th is the cutoff date. On July 5th, I believe it is.
Thanks, guys.
Infinity Bros saying looks so good, Nitro. On the July 5th podcast, we will be doing a live drawing on the podcast to see who gets to win that. I'm saying this right now to everyone. You have to be subbed to be in with a chance of winning this. This is something that would be sold for $35 to $40. Nitro is putting a whole lot of work into this. I've seen the process that's gone into this along the way, so we wanted to make sure that this was a worthwhile thing for people to get into. So you have to be subbed to the channel to be in with a chance for winning that. The only one who's eligible right now would be ads. And we have 2 subs right now, but the second sub I believe is Isaac from the Infinity Bros, and I think that's going to run out by June 30th. So like, so the only one that's actually going to be subbed by June 30th at this point is ads. So ads is winning this at this point. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning this,
there you go, ads.
You have to sub to the channel before then. You can sub today, you can sub in the next coming weeks, you can sub even on June 30th itself, but it has to be by June 30th. Midnight June 30th, once it hits July 1st, it's done. And I'll know it's done. I work till midnight, so like I'm literally going to be doing the cut-off specifically at midnight. Watch Batman TMT earlier in the moment where Batman kicks Shredders and so uplifting. Yeah, I can absolutely believe that adds. Like, I've not seen that yet, the Batman and TMNT thing. I do have the Batman TMT like first volume crossover on my shelf, but I've not seen the movie yet though. So like that's definitely one I need to catch. I've not had a chance to watch it. I'll be subbing with both accounts by the end. Technically, you're allowed to. Technically, although technically, if the Infinity Bros win it, you might have to argue with the other Infinity Bros that technically you won it as a group.
You might have to rip it in sixth.
Sixth.
It's hard to say.
Nitro can't English very well, which is worrying because usually that's my job. So, but yeah, so like, if you want to be in with a chance of winning that, then you have to be subbed to the channel. You can do that at any point this month, because it will last. If you sub at any point this month, it will last through to the end. So,
yep.
This is your opportunity to be in with a chance of winning this. As Ads had asked before as well, what about shipping out with the US? Not an issue to us. We will ship it anywhere.
Yep.
We will take care of that. Don't worry about it, because as is in the UK, he was asking about shipping costs and stuff to that. That's not an issue. This is a prize that we want to give away, so if you want it, it's yours. All you have to do is sub, and you've got a chance.
Yep.
You know, and you can do that either with Amazon Prime's free sub or a $4.99 sub, and a chance of winning a $40 bit of artwork. Just saying.
And just for reference, the poster is, what is it? It's 20 by 16. So I believe it's 20 by 16. So it's a really large poster.
So Dark Sage popping in. Hey Dark Sage, how's it going, bro? Hope you're doing good. Batman's always been my favourite comic character, but I do need to say it feels like every DC movie that is made has Batman in it. And in my opinion, I feel like he's one character everyone wants to see in the movies. With the MCU, you have a cast of diverse characters to choose from, and if DC ever want to make a DCU, I feel like Batman would need to be the main character.
Kind of like the Iron Man in Marvel MCU.
To play a major role in the story, because it seems like, in my opinion, anything DC does without Batman is not very successful, or people lose interest apart from Superman. Yeah, literally, like, he's, even in the comic books, if you even look at the comics, like, that's why Batman is stuck on so many teams. Like, we're going to do, Justice League Dark, and Batman makes an appearance.
Yeah.
Or they tried to relaunch like Justice League of America, and Batman made an appearance because Batman sells books. It's the same reason, like in Marvel with Wolverine, with the comics. That's why Wolverine appeared in like 50 teams. The Loner Mutant appears in like I don't know how many teams. Why? Because he sells comics. That's literally what they do with Batman, and I totally agree. I think like if they redo the DCU, they would have to have Batman as a major part of it, because like he's a selling point.
Well, not to derail the convo, but I don't know if you guys heard, but the recent news where Warner Brothers was like, yeah, we don't know how to make a successful Superman movie, and everybody was like,
yeah, I heard about that.
Really?
And I'm like,
really? You've
done it before. What changed?
That's probably they were like it's probably because you used the same two villains in the past like 48 movies.
Yeah.
Like Lex Luthor and Zod. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway.
All right, so that's our housekeeping. Infinity Bro says, true, I'm using Mark's Amazon account, so the Infinity Bro, so you probably have dibs. Yeah, so if you sub with that, like, that's up to you and him who gets the giveaway. Alright, so a couple of pieces of news we want to talk about. I don't want to spend too much time in this because I want to actually delve into today's topic, because it's going to be probably fairly lengthy, excuse me, as we talk about stuff. So biggest bits of news, obviously, let's talk about it, was the PS5 like trailer announcement with all the games coming out for it.
Yeah.
Huge announcement, some amazing looking games, some definitely caught my eye. Definitely beautiful looking games. Of course, the one they kicked it off with, the one that caught every comic book and superhero nerd's attention, was Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Looks beautiful. Putting Miles at the centre of the
sweet,
book
man.
is like, of course you do. I mean, with this Into the Spider-Verse movie, it's caught everyone's attention. Miles is at the top of everyone's discussion about Spider-Man now. So yeah, get him in the game. You obviously set it up in the game that he was going to be a major part of it.
Yeah.
With him appearing in the original game for the PS4. So yeah, do it. A lot of rumours saying though, like, it's coming out holiday 2020. A lot of rumours now saying though that the announcement that it's not an official game on its own. It's more of an expansion of the original Spider-Man game. It'll still handle like that, although I think Miles is going to have new powers and stuff, obviously, because he has different powers from Peter. It's going to have different stories with different villains and stuff like that. So it's going to play like a brand new thing that we've not seen before, but it's still essentially an expansion upon the original game.
Yeah, I heard conflicting opinions on that, because I heard from an exec from Sony that it was like an add-on to that game, but then I heard from some other people that it was actually a totally separate game. So I don't know, we'll see. It looks phenomenal though.
It looks amazing. Well, that's it though. It's like, even if it is still an expansion, like, that's not going to put me off wanting to play it. It looks phenomenal. It still looks great, and that's saying, like, it's an expansion of a game that was really successful and really fun and that everybody really loved, and I'm like, that's not a bad thing.
Oh, Insomniac clarified?
Yeah, Insomniac clarified.
Okay. Got it.
So yeah, like, even if it is an expansion, even if it's just a build on to the original game, like, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be successful and it'll open the door up for more Spider-Man games, because that Spider-Man game was phenomenal. Like, I want to see more of those, kind of like how Arkham Asylum opened up the door for more Arkham games. I want to see this open up.
So it is a standalone.
It is a standalone. Okay. Awesome.
Got it.
That's even better then. I mean, that's honestly
So
even better.
not to just to kind of piggyback off that, the actual design of the PS5 is just it looks like a spaceship. It looks phenomenal, and I don't know if you actually got a chance to check. Somebody posted like zoomed in pictures of the controllers, and they have the grip texture on the controller is the actual buttons. So the triangle, X, circle, and square. It's all like patterned over the back of the controller. Dude,
Oh,
it's so sweet. Like the
that's
attention to detail that they did.
they put a lot of work and effort into this. It does look like a Wi-Fi router though. Like I love the meme that's going around. So what are you
It
getting?
does.
What are
It
you
does.
getting? The Wi-Fi router or the mini fridge? Like I
Yeah, it looks
love.
better than a mini fridge, though. I'm gonna be straight up.
I love that comparison with it, but at the same time, like PS5's off to a great start. Like I know a lot more announcements
Yeah.
are going to come out for it, but like that was a definite high point.
Yeah, I never got the chance to play the Spider-Man PS4 game. I would love that. I would love to
Yeah.
get my hands on it.
But speaking of Batman Arkham games, apparently it was rumored earlier this week that coming out for the PS5, Xbox, Series X, we're going to be getting a new Batman Arkham game. Apparently there's one in the works. This is still just rumored. It's not been officially confirmed as far as I'm aware. At least from the recent thing, unless something news came out that I missed. But as far as I know, there is one in production. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
tons of great
seen a
memes
couple
coming
of
from the PS5. Oh yeah, like what was one I shared today? It was a Lord of the Rings one, and it's oh, what's to say? Is it Gondor? Yeah, like it's the city of Gondor, like but the middle tower of it's literally the PS5 tower, and I like it's like I love it. There's so many memes for it now, and it's awesome. But at the same
I saw
time,
one.
Sony must be loving that because it's like just building up their
Yeah, it's free
publicity for it,
advertising.
you know.
I saw one where the Silent Hill, the creature in Silent Hill that has the pyramid for the head.
Oh,
but
Pyramid
instead of
Head,
the
yeah,
pyramid,
yeah.
It was it was the PS5.
That's awesome. Like there are so many out there now, and they're so smart and so inventive. But that's another one we could be getting for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. It's going to be a possible another Batman Arkham game. I'm all for it. Like I love the Arkham games. They're so much fun. It's been how long's it been since we had Arkham Knight?
I don't know.
It's been a good few years since then. I mean, like you're talking at least about 5 years maybe since we got Arkham Knight, something like that. So like I'm up for another Batman Arkham game. Like I've never been really let down by them. The Arkham games always play really well, so like I'm definitely up for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, another bit of news, keeping in with the in production of that one and the fact that we talked about Miles Morales. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 has officially begun production.
Awesome.
So it has officially started production, and we are officially going to be seeing it probably in 2021. Probably late 2021 is the chances when we'll see it then. But I'm all for that. Loved Into the Spider-Verse. Really happy that they announced a sequel, and really glad to hear that it's finally kicked off production.
I wonder what they're gonna do in it, man. I wonder what type of villains they're gonna introduce. That's gonna be interesting.
It's
see
going
how
to
they
be.
take it.
I'm interested to see what other Spider-Man they add to it. Like who do they add
Yeah.
on? Like because like they've done
They
those.
could have like an army of different versions of Spider-Man.
Well, that's it. They tested those 5, and then even at the end credits scene of Into the Spider-Verse, they hinted at Spider-Man 2099,
Yeah.
and they hinted at like the original like animated cartoon Spider-Man had that,
Mhm.
and so. But there's so many more Spider-Man out there. Like obviously, read the Spider-Verse story. Is the big one. It'll let you know just how many different versions of Spider-Man are out there, and they could really tap into any of them.
Yeah.
Along with that, going into production, there has been announcements of a bunch of other movies though are still being delayed or cancelled for a while. The latest one being Wonder Woman has been delayed until October 2nd, 2020. So the Wonder Woman 1984 movie is not going to happen until then. So, and then last big bit of news from this week was it feels like the CW is just getting kicked in the groin constantly in the last few weeks, but this time it's not to do with Batwoman. This time it's to do with the Flash. Actor Hartley Sawyer, who plays Elongated Man, Ralph Dibny, on the show, has officially been fired.
Yeah, I saw that.
Officially been fired from, and these are again, it's kind of like a James Gunn situation. Like these are a lot of old tweets that have resurfaced, but they've resurfaced in terms of racist tweets and sexist tweets with rape jokes and different stuff, and from like 2012 through 2014 a number of the jokes have resurfaced, and them resurfacing now in the midst of like the Black Lives Matter movement really taking on, all the protests that are happening, all the different stuff.
Yeah.
There's not a cut-off policy for that anymore. It's done.
No.
So he has officially been fired. Like the runners of the show have came out officially like disowning him essentially, and the fact of like his views are not their views, and like he's came out trying to apologize for it because these are older tweets, but at the same time it's like, as I've found with Twitter, anything you say years ago, it's like if you've tweeted it, it's going to stay there and haunt you.
Yeah, I've read a handful of the tweets, and they're pretty rough, to be honest.
Yeah, some of them are. I'm not going to repeat them on here. I'm not going to share them on here. If you want to find them, you can definitely Google them and find them. They're not hard to find, but it's probably best not to give them as much attention in light of it. But yeah, they are very racist and very sexist tweets, and definitely, I think at least in one or two of them, there was definitely context of him talking about rape, and not a flattering light. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I'm not surprised that they've went this route with it. It's like with all the stuff that's going on right now, everyone's taking a zero tolerance policy, even to older tweets like that, even to older stuff that's out there. It's like basically anything you tweet, it's recorded, and there's a chance someone can find it.
Yep.
And it was obviously, you could tell he was doing it to try and get a rise out of people, to try and make jokes, to try and get attention at that time, probably. I mean, this was long before he was in the public eye as Ralph Dibny on The Flash, but yeah. Ad says, wouldn't have expected that he was cool in Flash, but I guess there's a difference on and offset.
Yeah.
You know? Well, that's the big thing, is like, we don't know if he still holds these same viewpoints as he did back then, but at the same time, there's nothing saying he doesn't. This is, when that stuff comes out, it's like, as far as we know, this is still your character and who you are.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what he's, the nice guy persona could honestly be that. It could be a persona. I'd love to think he's changed. I'd love to think he's different. He's not like that anymore, and this is just a stupid mistake from his past. I pray that it is. I pray that it's not something he actually believes in anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't blame the Flash for not taking that, which sucks because like the character was interesting. He seemed like a cool guy. There was a lot of big storylines getting built up around him. He was a series regular, but you know, it'll be interesting to see how the Flash kind of explains his disappearance, if they explain him gone or if they just recast him.
Yeah.
I think chances are they're probably just going to write the character off and do something that he had to leave and he's gone, and that'll be him. They'll never mention him again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was kind of it for me for the big topics for the news. So unless you have anything else to add to the news topics for this week, Nitro, I think we should jump into our main topic for today.
No, I think that's it. I think you touched on everything.
Alright, so we are going to be talking about our 5 favourite heroes in comics. As I kind of stated on social media, like, mine are a little different. You're not going to find a lot of the main characters that I talk about being your regular characters. Like, I can tell you, like, guys like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, you know, major characters in the X-Men do not really appear on my list. I'm personally kind of drawn to more of the lesser known characters that don't get as much spotlight. That have fans and followings, but not massive ones. You know, I used to be a huge fan of Deadpool, and I even said this to you, Nitro. Like, I used to be a huge fan of Deadpool, and then I just never really. He got like so oversaturated and so overpopular that it literally put me off him.
Yeah.
Like, he's still a cool character and stuff, but like I used to really love Deadpool, and it's like.
So are you the type of person that when you find a new band and you play the crap out of them, and then a lot of people start listening to them, you're like, I'm not a huge fan anymore?
It depends. I kind of can do that with it. It's like, it depends on how it's overdone. Like, I'm still a fan of, like, for example, I'm still a fan of Spider-Man. Spider-Man, arguably one of the most well-known characters out there. Like, I'm a huge fan of his still. He's not on my list. There's other characters I do prefer, but he was like the guy that got me into it. At the same time, like, you could say it is kind of a bit of oversaturation. Like, I think Batman's a bit overrated.
Yeah.
I think people really talk him up a massive amount. And like, oh, he's amazing, he can do this and he can do that. Like, I literally love the Robins over him. Like, I love Dick Grayson, I love Jason Todd, I love Tim Drake. I love them. I love the way their characters are going. I love the way they're portrayed. Batman, I don't know if I just get bored of him, especially like Grant Morrison's version of him, where it's like if he has enough prep time, he can beat anybody. No, he can't.
Yeah.
He's got this amazing amount of training, and he's an amazingly smart person. I'll give him that, but at the same time, he's still just human.
He's not a super genius.
No. I'd say, and I hope they recast because he's one of my favorite characters. Yeah, it would be cool if they recast Hartley Sawyer, and I guess we just need to wait and see if they do recast him or if they, if they change it totally.
So in contrast to your list, Cross. So I'm coming at it more from a perspective of, all right, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. So when I was little, my cousin was really into comics and I wasn't into comics, and he had a long box of all different types, like DC, Marvel, like, independent at the time, which was Image Comics, and me being a kid that loved to draw and loved art, I was immediately drawn to specific types of characters, specific characters, not necessarily because of the story per se, although that does play in, but how they were drawn and how they were portrayed. So I'm going to be kind of coming at this list from a kind of a slightly different perspective. I haven't read nearly as many comics as Cross has. I do have a lot, but when I'm collecting comics, I'm collecting them more from an art standpoint and how they're portrayed first, and then the story for me comes second. So
yeah, and that's one of the great things about comics is like you love comics for whatever reason you love comics.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people love the art. Some people love the story. Some people go absolutely crazy for like a couple of characters. Some people deep dive into so many different characters. It's like that's the thing about it. Like, what character? These are by no means us saying these are the best characters in comics. We're saying these are the ones that we like to read about. These are the ones that we enjoy the artwork for. These are the ones that caught our attention and caught our eye.
Yeah.
I know with the ones that I'm talking about, I want to create a bit more attention about them and get people to go, hey, these guys and characters are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Go check them out. It's like people don't know about them as often,
Ad says, I favor groups more, such as Inhumans, Teen Titans, and Monster Howling Commandos group more than single characters. I would agree to a certain extent. I mean, I grew up, like, most of the comics that I got when I was little were X-Men and Avengers. So I grew up reading those. All the different, they would trade these characters in the X-Men and input these and take these out and input these, so all the different teams and everything like that. So yeah, I like that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another big thing. Is like, I think I don't have anyone that's really part of a major team. Some of them have crossed over into teams and stuff like that, but I've not included in there today. But yeah, teams are definitely a favourite of mine. Like, I love the X-Men, I love the Teen Titans, I love the groups like that. It's like there's a lot of amazing teams out there, so yeah, I can definitely understand that. And like, getting a comic where you've got a great group dynamic can definitely be a winner for it as well.
Yeah.
But that's it again, that's the thing, is like everyone's drawn to different comics. Like, just because comics are out there, like just because Batman's one of the big selling comics doesn't mean everybody reads Batman. Like, you pick up the comics you like. You get people who do like that for comic collecting. They'll go like that, oh, I've collected every issue of Spider-Man since the beginning, so I need to keep collecting them even if the storyline's crap. You don't just collect the books that you want to collect. Read the characters that you want to read about, like the stories that you want to enjoy.
Or for me, like, collect the artists you want to collect.
Yeah, collect
like
the art.
Specific runs of specific characters that a specific artist is.
Oh yeah, and that's a big one as well. Like, I've had comics that I've been completely put off of like reading because I hated the artwork. Like, I legitimately couldn't stand the art, and I'm like, I can't read this. Like, the art is awful.
It could be a fantastic story, but the art sucks. So you're like, I don't really want to read it.
Absolutely, I had that with one. It was FF during the Marvel Now initial run. Like, the Fantastic Four leave to go into space, and they leave like a team of 4 to be the Fantastic Four while they're gone. So like, it starts off like the comics are together and they merge off of each other, and with the FF, like, all of a sudden this older Johnny Storm comes back, and like, apparently this thing happens to the Fantastic Four while they're in space, and he time traveled back to that point. I'm like, oh, I'm really intrigued by this, like, reading it and stuff. Like, I kind of want to see where this goes. The art was awful.
Yeah,
it was so bad. I'm like, I really don't want to read any more of this because, like, I can't keep looking at this crap art.
Well, that's like me. Like, I have the omnibus of Ultimate Fantastic Four, and I've cracked it open at least 3 times, and I'm just like, I just can't. And I'll never be a person that can illustrate Fantastic Four, so I'm not saying that whoever did that, which I don't know who it was offhand, but I'm not saying they're a bad artist, but it's just not my bag.
Yeah.
So.
No. Well, let's delve into this then. So do we want to do like one for one? Because I'm pretty sure like I had a look at your list as well when I was pulling up, because we made a list of reading recommendations. I'll be sharing that on in the chat once we've talked through our characters of like books to read and stories to read on them. So I don't think we've got anybody that like crosses over that's the same. So okay. I say we just go one for one.
Sure. I can go first if you want.
Yeah, you go for it. You kick us off, Nitro. Who you got first?
All right, cool. And like I said, so again, I'm coming at it from a slightly different perspective, whereas Cross is selecting kind of more lesser known characters. My top 5, everybody is probably going to know them. But again, I'm coming at it from more of a, like an aesthetic almost. And some of them, absolutely story. And some of them I don't know a ton about, because I haven't read a ton about them. But my first one is Ghost Rider. So I have a handful of Ghost Riders. This is one of the ones that I have. I personally really like Ghost Rider. I think the story's fantastic. For those of you who don't know, I think Johnny Blaze makes a deal with who he thinks is the devil at the time to save his stepdad, and it turns out to be Mephisto. But he gains the Ghost Rider's power, the Spirit of Vengeance, I believe is what it's called, and he just wrecks shop as a Ghost Rider. His powers, he's basically unlimited power. It depends on who's riding him, and he can turn anything he touches into a weapon. And I just think the character itself, the visuals, some of the splash pages that I've seen from Ghost Rider, the visuals of him just wearing all black leather with spikes and a flaming skull is just one of the sweetest characters I think that has ever been created.
Oh yeah, it's one of the coolest designs. Yeah.
At least visually, and I am one of those people that open my comic books, so if you would please forgive me. I know, how dare me, right? But yeah, I just think
the comic book collector world judges you right now.
I know. I mean, it is what it is. I don't buy these things to not look at them. So, but yeah, I just think the visualness of Ghost Rider and just some of the splash pages that you can do with Ghost Rider are just fantastic.
Yeah, some of them are beautiful, man.
And he's worked, he's popped in so many different other character stories. Like you have Blaze and Ghost Rider. He's just been a huge part of a lot of different storylines. Midnight Suns, I believe. So I would say that would be my top.
Yeah.
I would say, I know we have reading recommendations. I can pop one.
Let me just ask as well. So, like, because you mentioned Johnny Blaze, are you speaking specifically like Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze, or are you a fan of like Ghost Rider overall? Because there's also like Danny Ketch, and there's the new Ghost Rider, which I completely blanked on his name.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I grew up with Johnny Blaze, transitioning into Danny Ketch.
Okay.
I didn't know a ton about Danny Ketch. I was doing my research for the podcast, and I found out that some of the stuff that I read was actually Danny Ketch, not Johnny Blaze. So my recommendation would just be to start at the beginning. Marvel, Ghost Rider Central Volume 1, which starts at the beginning of Ghost Rider. It tells how Johnny Blaze got its powers and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know a ton about the newer Ghost Riders per se. Like the one that was on S.H.I.E.L.D. What was his name again?
Robbie Reyes, that's it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember.
I
literally try to remember his name.
Yeah. So, I mean, he looks awesome. Like, I love the style of his skull and his car as opposed to the motorcycle. I think that's fantastic. I don't know a ton about him, but I think Ghost Rider is probably not my number one. And the ones that I'm going to be going through are in no particular order. But yeah, that's one of my top. That's one of my top. And it was close. For me, it was close between Ghost Rider and I really like Nightcrawler from the X-Men. But I think Ghost Rider, just because of the way he looks and his power set and just what he can do, I think just overrides him just a little bit.
Sweet. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I love Ghost Rider. So it's such a cool character and definitely part of that kind of Marvel Knights darker side of Marvel. And you'll find him in a lot of that stuff. So it's like, yeah.
It's going to be fantastic when they're actually able to do a movie that doesn't involve Nicolas Cage. And he's in the MCU. Not that Nicolas Cage is bad, but when he's actually a part of the MCU, it's going to be fantastic to see what they do.
Nicolas Cage might not be bad, but when he's playing Ghost Rider, it got pretty bad.
He's bad.
Especially the second movie. If you even dare tread into the second movie, it's bad.
All right, I will say, just bear with me for a second. So I think in the second movie, I think he looks better as Ghost Rider. And I think the way he displays his power is better than the first one.
So you're thinking peeing fire was a better display of his power than the first
Well,
one?
I didn't call out that specific scene.
You said his power display of his power was better. There is not a scene in that movie that anyone thinks about. In the trailer, he starts peeing fire.
Oh, I don't
Which I'm
remember
like,
that actually, but that's hilarious.
which I'm like, how does that even work? He's a skeleton when he turns into Ghost Rider. How the frick does that work?
That's freaking hilarious.
All right, so I am actually going to jump into the other one of the big two. I'm actually going to jump over to DC for my first one, because I feel like I have to start off with this guy. I'm of course going to be talking about one of my favorites, Booster Gold.
Of course.
In case you don't know, guys, like the whole tagline that I used for like Comics in the Cross, the greatest streamers you've never heard of, literally I took that from Booster Gold. His tagline is the greatest hero you've never heard of. So Booster Gold is definitely, I found it when trying to think of like my top 5 heroes. I definitely have a thing for unusual heroes. Like they're either anti-heroes or they're either like they're not quite what the hero stereotype is. And Booster Gold definitely fits that. Original name is Michael John Carter. I can't speak. He's actually originally from the future. He's from the year 2442. He's a time traveler. He originally, was doing good in college football. He was like on a star on the way to a big payday, looking to join. I think he went to was it Gotham College? I think he went to, and was going to start doing well with it. But started realizing how good he was doing. He actually started betting on his team to lose games and started throwing games. So of course, when he got found out, that totally ruined his name and his reputation.
Got it.
And he became a security guard at the Metropolis Museum, where he started becoming obsessed with all the superheroes of the 20th century, which were all on display there. And one day he decided, my life's crap. So he stole technology from there. He stole a Legionnaire flight ring. He stole body armor and different stuff, and basically from different sections and elements put together a superhero costume. And stole one of the security bots, Skeets, who's usually his little sidekick robot that you'll see with him. Actually stole him from there as well, and awesome. Used Rip Hunter's time machine to travel back to the 20th century. Which at the time we didn't know it when he did it. Actually, Rip Hunter is actually Booster Gold's son, who became a time agent. So he actually used his son's time machine, not realizing it belonged to his son at the time. Obviously,
that's super interesting because
time travel. And he came back. He came to the 20th century, decided he was going to make a big splash and be a big hero, because he is 100% the arrogant jackass superhero. He wants the fame, he wants the glory, he wants the money. Deep down, he is a good guy. Deep down, he is a hero. He wants to do the right thing, but he also wants the fame and the glory for it. It makes me think, if you want to flash back to the old Disney cartoons, to Darkwing Duck.
Oh yeah.
It's like he is a hero and he is a good guy, but he also wants the glory as well. And his name, Booster Gold itself, he came up with by sheer accident. Because he actually went into a whole thing where he saved the president. The president was under attack. Oh, there he is. Yeah, Booster Gold. So he was actually going to went into a thing. The terrorists were coming for the president, and he managed to save the president. The president wanted to praise him up and asked what his name was. He was originally going to say Gold Star. That was going to be his name. But he kind of stuttered and stumbled. Like when he was telling his name, and he went, Booster, no wait, Gold. And the president announced him as Booster Gold. So he became Booster Gold from there. So Booster Gold, actually as well, amazing thing to note, Booster Gold was actually created by Dan Jurgens, who's most famous for the Death of Superman story and the creator of Doomsday.
Oh wow, I didn't know
He's
that.
actually the creator of Booster Gold as well, which is why you'll see Booster Gold not only appearing in his solo runs, but also when Dan Jurgens took over writing Superman and Rebirth, Booster Gold makes a story arc appearance in that as well. Booster Gold is also the man who coined Doomsday's name, because he basically said it looked like it was Doomsday when Superman asked him what was going on. So he was actually, Booster Gold was the one responsible for naming Doomsday and that iconic name.
That's awesome.
So Booster Gold had his own solo series for a little while as well. His most famous run though is when he joined Justice League International, which is of course where he met his longtime best friend, and created one of the greatest, if not the greatest, bromance in comic book history with Ted Cord, the Blue Beetle. I freaking love these two together. They are such a fun pairing. They are such a fun partnership.
Don't you have one of the comics in the, behind you on the?
Yeah, it's like I don't have them, but like on my wall here, you will actually see just at the end I've got Blue Beetle #1 from Ted Cord's original run when he first became Blue Beetle as part of DC, because he was actually owned by a different comic company initially.
Got it.
And then just a couple over from him, I've got the Booster Gold #1 from his initial run up on my wall as well. I absolutely adore Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. The two of them are so fun together. From their Justice League International, Booster Gold also got a solo run from Jeff Johns, in which there's a big story arc. Volume 2 of that is Booster Gold and Blue Beetle together. And then if you want to dive into some different stuff for them, to see that friendship, the Injustice 2 comic from Tom Taylor that ties into the Injustice 2 video game, and there's a big storyline for that with Booster Gold connecting with the younger Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, and starts training him and stuff. But like he also connects with Ted Cord, and there's a really emotional scene in that with him as well. I was literally broken up with it. It was such good writing. Like I literally want Tom Taylor to write a Blue Beetle and Booster Gold series. But after his Jeff Johns series, Booster Gold kind of disappeared. They hinted at something big happening for him during the New 52.
Yeah.
He became the leader of Justice League International, which was like a government-funded and government-sponsored Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the second volume of that, apparently like another version of Booster Gold appears to himself, telling him that he has to stop Superman and Wonder Woman from getting together. His life depends on it, which of course he then sees them kissing on a monitor, and he actually fades into nothingness. He disappears. That ends up kind of coming up as a big thing in Convergence, the storyline that everyone ignores from DC because it was awful. But he then, of course, like Booster Gold finally makes his big return in Rebirth as part of Dan Jurgens' run, which I mentioned, where Superman basically, spoilers for that Dan Jurgens run, by the way, Mr. Oz, who's like tormenting Superman, reveals himself to actually be Superman's father, Jor-El.
Holy mother.
So Superman wants to go back to Krypton to find out if he's telling the truth that basically Dr. Manhattan plucked him off of Krypton when he died, right before he died. And Booster Gold follows him back, basically saying, "You can't do this, we have to stop this." So that was a cool story for him. The next big appearances from him are, of course, then Tom King started writing him, and Tom King wrote him awful. I hate Tom King's writing of Booster Gold. I'm going to mention that right now. Because after doing a whole big thing with Superman and saying you shouldn't go back and change history, Booster Gold apparently, leading up to the wedding of Batman and Selena Kyle, decides, you know what Bruce really needs at his wedding? His parents. I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to bring them forward, which... Did you not read the storyline where he just stopped Superman from wrecking the timeline? Which, of course, Booster Gold then wrecks the timeline.
So in thinking about like time travel and stuff like that, does Booster Gold ever like interact with Flash as far as like changing timelines and stuff?
Not in
that big thing with Flashpoint.
Not in terms of changing timelines, not that I'm aware of. But he does do a lot of time travel stories, like there's the Vanishing Point story and stuff, where he tries to help Superman and Green Lantern go look for Batman after he disappears and they learn that like he was sent back in time. So there's definitely some time travel stories, but there's no crossover with the Flash as far as I'm aware. But the most recent appearances for Booster Gold was, of course, in Heroes in Crisis from Tom King, which is what he set up in the Batman book. That after he wrecked the timeline, Booster Gold goes to Sanctuary, the place for heroes that have got mental health issues and to recover from stuff, where he's accused of being a murderer and all that stuff, and the guy that killed them, it turns out it's not him. And the other person accused, funnily enough, is Harley Quinn, and the most recent appearance I've seen of Booster Gold that's quite interesting is it heavily hinted that there might be a romance blossoming between Booster Gold and Harley Quinn. Which I'm like, I can kind of see that. I can kind of see that working. But yeah, Booster is one of my favourites. He's such a fun character. He's all about the glory. Him and Ted are complete men-childs, you know. It's like they love having fun. They love playing pranks. Everything's, you know, they're great heroes, but they also like, you know, joking around as well. They're absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I gotta read some of that stuff. I knew nothing about Booster Gold, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Especially the part where he's trying to create his costume and he's stealing stuff from a museum.
Yeah, he literally
That's
takes all the
hilarious.
stuff. If you want to talk about his powers and stuff, he has flight thanks to the Legionnaire ring. He has augmented strength and a shield and different stuff, all because of the armor. And then he also has Skeets, who's able to tap into, who's basically a little history bot who tells him about different things in history. So if he needs information, Skeets like keeps him up to date
Oh,
on
that's
stuff.
awesome.
So like,
Yeah.
it's really well thought out. It's like he's
Yeah.
well worth reading.
That's sweet.
All right, on to your second one then. Who you got for us?
All right, so my second one is probably the one that I know the least about, but I find the story and I find the way that they draw him and portray him just awesome, and that would be Moon Knight.
Oh yeah.
All right, so here's the thing. I didn't grow up reading Moon Knight. In fact, I only found out about Moon Knight probably less than 10 years ago. So he's still fairly new to me.
Sweet.
But I think the entire story of him, being a mercenary and going over to Egypt, being left for dead, getting powers from Khonshu, I believe, the moon god, the Egyptian moon god, and then coming back and just wrecking shop. He doesn't have the rules that Batman does, so he does kill people at times. Here's another one. Here's one of the omnibuses that I picked up about a year or two ago. But I love his whole skill set. I love the way he looks. I'm gonna share a picture real quick. So for those of you who haven't seen him,
That's
what's
sweet.
not to like? What's not to like about that?
He does
He
have
just
like a
looks-
very cool design. It's
Yeah.
just beautiful, man.
And one of the things that I really, really like about him is, for those of you who don't know the story, I'll try to like surmise it at a high level. Basically, he's a mercenary. He goes over to get some hidden treasure, I believe, from Egypt, and the guy that he's with basically beats the mess out of him and leaves him for dead. He dies at an Egyptian temple to Khonshu, who's, I believe, Khonshu, basically the lunar god for the Egyptians, and that god says, all right, I'm gonna give you power, but you need to avenge me, basically. So he becomes a mercenary, like an Avenger, I guess. Not a Marvel Avenger, but you know what I'm saying. And he's basically catching criminals, basically, when he comes back. But the thing that I think makes him super unique is he has a multiple personality disorder. So the guy, as the mercenary, his name is Mark Spector. As the vigilante, he's known as Moon Knight. But he also created two separate identities, full-fledged identities. You have Stephen Grant, who's the millionaire. So he that's the public front that people see as him as a person. And then there's a taxi cab driver. I think his name is like Jake Lockley or something like that. And then later on in the series, he starts interacting with police and being sort of almost like a detective. And he takes on the persona as Mr. Knight, who wears a white suit, a white tie, and basically a skin-tight mask on his face. So I think his whole thing is almost preposterous to me, but it just looks so awesome. And his power set is awesome because it's lunar-based. It's a lunar-based power. So he interacts with werewolves, like in some of his runs. So he gets bit. So that just changes the way his powers work. It's just I find the character fascinating. He's super cool. I don't know a ton about him. I've actually just started reading him within the past year. But he seems like a very interesting character, and he's the type of character that you could keep like bridging off on things because he has multiple personality disorder, and you can kind of go any direction you want with that.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
that's my jam. Moon
He
Knight
is
will
awesome. Also, as
yeah.
well, shout out that there will be a Disney Plus show coming out in the next few years
Yes.
of Moon Knight as well. So he's going to be coming to live action as well as part of the MCU. So definitely worth checking out.
To piggyback on that, I think from what I'm hearing, they're doing a Blade, they're doing Moon Knight, they're doing Ghost Rider. So I think we might get like a Midnight Suns type thing.
That'd be
going
cool.
on.
It's like, I know there's definitely a Blade movie that's been announced, and I know there's apparently the Moon Knight show is meant to connect with that somehow. So they could be setting up for a kind of Midnight Suns sort of setup. I definitely think.
Yeah.
So your guy has dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
I think it's only fair that I do my next guy, who also has dissociative
Sweet.
identity disorder.
Like mine.
I'm going to be talking about, this is the guy who, if you looked at my hints of who I was posting about, the one I said, like, I don't even know if I can class him as a hero, but I find him such an interesting character. And there's not a lot out there about him in Marvel as well, which I think kind of adds to it. I want more, but I kind of don't, because it adds to just how intriguing the character is.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Legion, David Haller, and the son of Charles Xavier.
See, I know nothing about Legion, so you're going to have to help me out.
Yeah. Legion, like, basically, the initial thing to know about him is he is essentially, like, possibly the most powerful mutant on the planet. He is Omega level to the max. Like, I literally want our next Square Go to see him at his full power face off against Franklin Richard at his full power.
Ooh.
Because, like, that would be, like, insane.
Yeah.
So, Legion is the son of Charles Xavier and Gabriel Haller, who was a woman who was actually a patient of Charles Xavier. He was using his mutant abilities to help people overcome trauma from the Holocaust. While treating her, the two of them developed a romantic relationship, and they obviously slept together. She ended up having David, and naming his middle name is actually Charles after his father.
Oh, okay.
But she never told Xavier. So Xavier had no idea he existed. So Legion lived with his mom until she was eventually killed by a terrorist group. Legion essentially, or well, David, I'll call him at this point because he isn't quite Legion, through the trauma, because as we know from mutants, either going through puberty is a big, effect of their mutant powers, or some sort of trauma and PTSD can affect their mutant powers. So his mutant powers activated. He has, like, limitless mutant abilities. Like, if you name it, there's a chance he can do it. Like, it's insane how powerful this dude is. But he also, one of his abilities is to absorb souls, so he absorbs personalities and people in. And then in dealing with the terrorists, it also fractured his personality. So he has different personalities within his mind, each of whom are all fighting to get to the surface and also control one of his abilities. He literally has thousands of personalities in his head.
Good grief.
That's why he's called Legion, because he has literally many. Some of the most notable stuff about that, he obviously then kind of went looking for his father and found Charles Xavier, and he even became an X-Man for a short while.
Yeah.
But the most notable story that he's a part of, that most people know him for, it wasn't called this initially, but later they entitled it Legion Quest.
Okay.
And it's literally, he decides to help his father's work by taking out his greatest enemy, Magneto. Okay. So one of his abilities is to time travel, and he travels back to the past to kill Magneto before he becomes the huge mutant threat. Unfortunately, the time he travels to, Charles Xavier is still Magneto's friend. So when he goes to kill Magneto, he actually ends up killing his own father.
Holy cow.
Magneto then decides to take over Charles Xavier's work, and Legion is actually responsible for the Age of Apocalypse storyline.
Good grief.
In X-Men, because Charles died and Magneto took over that, like, that whole change in timeline was caused because of Legion.
Dang, I didn't know that.
Eventually that was all overturned, and they managed to get the world back to the way it was meant to be. Yeah, of course, they couldn't leave it like that for too long. But that's the thing. Literally every X-Men comic, anything linked to X-Men, stopped. They were all Age of Apocalypse. They literally stopped their entire mutant line. Everything became Age of Apocalypse. This was like a line-wide thing, and they stopped it dead. It was kind of insane. But it's one of the
some of the Age of Apocalypse. I didn't know that was the actual storyline. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's how it came to be. So Legion obviously ends up coming back. Initially to control his powers, I was literally watching someone talk about it, and he literally described it like, the Ben 10 TV show, where he has like the wrist thing. He can pick like an alien ability to like have, and he turns into that alien.
Yeah.
Like, literally Legion ends up with a wristband like that allows him to tap into a personality and use their powers without that personality having to take over.
Yeah.
But again, Legion kind of disappears into the background for a while. He only shows up every so often. So my favourite series, the one that really got me into reading about David Haller, the first one I read of him that really got my attention, is called X-Men Legacy. And it
I'm
follows
looking at a cover right now.
Yeah.
Of him on it. Yeah.
And literally, like, the story, he goes to like a monk. His father takes him to like a monk there, and yeah, like his father takes him to a monk who gets like who helps him like get in control of his powers, get in control of his abilities. And what he actually does is mentally, he actually creates a prison in his head. Ooh. He creates a prison in his head and locks away every single personality, and he becomes the jailer. And has like a device on his hand where he'll inject the person so that he can use that ability. And this is all in his head.
Yeah.
But this is also running concurrent with the Avengers versus X-Men storyline. Which, if you know that storyline, that's when the Phoenix Force comes back and the X-Men take that over. And in the last issues of that, Cyclops actually kills Professor X with the Phoenix Force. That sets Legion off. His mind breaks open, and the story has this amazing like turn of real life David Haller and what's happening, and also David inside his own mind, because all these personalities are free and they want to kill him and they want to take over and they want to be the main personality.
Yeah.
So you get this great concurrent thing of that going back and forth. But he goes on a journey and he ends up befriending like one of the X-Men. What's her name? I completely blanked on her name now, but she's a blind girl that's with the X-Men.
I'm not
But
sure.
she ends up like he ends up befriending her and stuff, and ends up trying to save a couple of kids who are mutants that he thinks are being trapped and stuff. And
is it Destiny? Is that her name?
no, it's not Destiny. I want to say like Blind Spot or something like that.
Blindfold?
Maybe. I want to say Blind Spot sounds familiar, but that may not be right.
Okay.
But basically, the end of that storyline, the end of that major one, like you even see like Wolverine asking him to come and be part of the X-Men and stuff like that, and you know, with Xavier being dead, to help with his father's vision, and he says no. Like he decides he wants to take up his father's vision, but he's not going to be part of the X-Men. He wants to help mutants, and that's the road he goes on. It's like 3 or 4 volumes, I want to say, to this story. But by the end of the storyline, he basically decides that he's done.
Yeah.
The best thing that he can do is to not exist. So at the peak of his power, like with his full power unleashed, he actually basically writes himself out of history.
Dang.
He like writes himself out so that he never existed.
Yeah.
And that obviously doesn't last long. Like, I'd recently done another Legion comic. I have not read that most recent one, I'll be honest. So I'm not sure how they do, if they even explain how he comes back or what really happens in it. But he's such an interesting character, and like the TV show is good, but I think it only really touches on part of it.
Yeah.
It really only touches part of this amazing story. Like, because you've got him like helping out with the X-Men, you've got him fighting the Shadow King, you've got him starting Age of Apocalypse, you've got him trying to control his personalities, like, and he is so powerful. He can do pyrokinesis, telekinesis. He can transport amazing distances, even through space, billions of miles away. He can alter reality. He can shapeshift. There are so many abilities he is capable of, but it's also tempered by the fact of like he's not always in control.
Yeah. Didn't they made a TV show about him, right?
Yeah, they made a show, Legion. I think it got 3 seasons.
Okay.
It's been cancelled now because of the like Marvel buying out the Fox stuff.
Yeah.
So it was stopped, but the TV show was interesting. It definitely,
I didn't see it.
It definitely caught a lot of the stuff for it, but it didn't capture half of it, because you were doing the story basically without the X-Men, and actually a lot of the ties to the X-Men are what make him interesting. You know, I think at the end of season 1 they hint that Charles Xavier's his father, and who he is, or like they show like images of who he could be, but they don't specifically mention him, and I'm like, but that's part of what it's interesting. That's part of like why you think like, yeah, that's probably one of the reasons he's so powerful.
Yeah.
Although one thing someone did say, like, Charles didn't know his son existed until eventually he came to him. Like, the most powerful psychic in the world couldn't pick up on.
Come on. I don't
couldn't pick up on his son, who happens to be one of the most powerful Omega level mutants on the planet.
He probably, for convenience, forgot to tell people that
he probably did. He probably
mutant on the planet.
No, honestly, like, he probably just ignored his son and hoped it would go away. It's like, if you read some of the if you read some of the stuff for Xavier, he's not always a nice guy. He's actually a bit of a jackass sometimes. So
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah, so that's mine, and he is officially diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. So that's why I thought I'd do him next, because something him and Moon Knight share.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right.
All right, there you go for me.
Yeah, I gotta look up that dude. Guys, so Booster Gold and Legion. I knew, like I said, I knew nothing about Booster Gold. He sounds fantastic. He sounds somebody I would love. But Legion sounds like somebody I would like to. So I gotta write him down. All right. I'm gonna do the next two.
Okay.
Just because they're kind of related.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So that big box of comics that I told you guys about at the beginning of the show, that I inherited from my cousin when I was little, probably 40 to 50% was Spider-Man, and specifically the Amazing Spider-Man. So Spider-Man from the 90s, Mark Bagley, Todd McFarlane holds a special place in my heart. So that would be part of the list. So Amazing Spider-Man, basically anything from number 200 to number 400. I don't know if you could see that. That would include Kraven's Last Hunt.
Oh, yeah.
That would also include the Clone Saga, the Hobgoblin Saga, all the major Maximum Carnage, all that stuff. When Carnage is introduced.
Oh, I love that cover. It's so sweet.
I know. It's probably one of my favorite covers. So you have the trio of them fighting Carnage, Venom, and Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man because he's obviously probably one of the most fleshed out comic characters of all time. I would say the same about Batman and Superman. I would say those three probably make up the majority of stuff that's sold for comics. But I think they're the most fleshed out. I think they have the deepest stories out of all the, as far as like, all the holes in their stories are kind of filled in. Like there's nothing really left to the imagination with Spider-Man. I think the whole story of a kid getting superpowers in high school and him just being super smart, not like genius level intelligence, but being super smart enough to create what he creates with the web shooters. They are not organic. The web shooters and the suit and all that stuff, and just the intricacies of what comes along with that, about maintaining relationships like Mary Jane and his Aunt May, losing his uncle, and then you have the Ultimate Spider-Man, which was kind of their Marvel's resetting of their universe into the Ultimate Universe. So they kind of retell the story basically. This is again one of my favorite comic book artists of all time, Mark Bagley. He did most of the Amazing Spider-Man in the 90s, I would assume. But that's the retelling, basically, of Peter Parker, how he becomes Spider-Man. It reintroduces all the new villains, kind of jazzed up, like Hobgoblin is the size of a building in this one. But it also introduces, later on down that line, Miles Morales as Spider-Man and all that stuff. So that's a really cool run. I've actually just started collecting these. This is volume 1. I think I'm on volume 4 or 5 right now. So I just really like Spider-Man. I love the way he looks. I think the character itself, the character lends itself to being drawn really good, like really cool. All these unique poses. There's a lot of team ups with Spider-Man that are really cool. Him and Daredevil. I mean, classic, which has not been seen on the big screen yet, which I'm anxious to see that. But I just really like, and I think a big part of it is two of my favorite comic artists of all time, Todd McFarlane and Mark Bagley, drew him.
Yeah.
And I think their art is phenomenal. I think the way that they portray stuff on screen is phenomenal, or on the page is phenomenal. Here's another one. This is probably one of my favorite covers. It's Venom and Spider-Man. That's again Mark Bagley.
So cool.
But yeah, I would say Spider-Man is probably tied for my number 1. Along with that, kind of related to that, is this dude, Venom.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't read any Venom, you got to read Lethal Protector. That's basically the story of him and Spider-Man getting into it, and Spider-Man's basically like, dude, you got to leave. You gotta leave New York. So he ends up going to San Francisco, and he ends up becoming more of an anti-hero as opposed to a straight villain for Spider-Man. But again, Mark Bagley, I just love his art, and I love the way that he portrays this dude. And I love the way that he portrays the symbiote, because the symbiote that makes Venom obviously was introduced in Secret Wars, issue 8. like way back in like the 80s, I think. Maybe the 80s, maybe early 90s or whatever. But it gets on Spider-Man, and it's just, I like the way that it shows, it displays itself different based off who it gets on. And I know one of your favorite Venoms is Flash Thompson. And you know, when it gets on Flash Thompson, he has a gun and he has like army boots. I mean, it's I just love, it's so versatile.
Oh yeah, actually with Flash Thompson, it's his legs. Flash Thompson like is kicked out of the military because he loses his legs in war.
Yeah.
And the Venom symbiote literally creates legs for him. It's so cool.
Yeah, but I mean, the way that Venom kind of talks to himself, I find really cool. I'm trying to find a really cool splash panel. I'm opening the comic again for my people on the thing.
I love how you're telling that to people who are just listening to the audio, so everyone can equally hate you that is a comic collector that for opening the comics up.
So this is probably one of my favorite panels ever of Venom.
That is sweet, man. That is a beautiful panel.
I just love it, man. And I remember when I was little, I would just pour over these comics, and just it's just awesome. So this a lot of these, like Venom and Spider-Man, were my inspiration to start drawing and stuff like that. But yeah, Spider-Man and Venom are probably in my top three, obviously. So
definitely. Well, I'm going to keep in the same vein of that then, because I said that Spider-Man is not on my list. That does not mean there is not a Spider character on my list.
Okay.
I am going to be talking about, he's actually another one that's up on my wall, right between Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. I'm talking about the Scarlet Spider, but not Ben Reilly. I'm talking about Kane Parker, the other clone, the original clone of Spider-Man. I love Kane Parker. Again, I said I think I'm drawn to like these anti-heroes that wear black and red. Like, first of all, I adore the suit. His Scarlet Spider suit is beautiful. It is one of my favourite spider suits ever. It is like completely red, all the way up to the shoulders, where it goes black to the shoulders and the mask, and then the eyes are red, and it's got the big black spider on the chest. It is beautiful, simplistic design. I absolutely freaking adore it. It's Kane Parker. Was again kind of like Ben Reilly. He has a lot of similarity to Ben Reilly, who is another clone of Spider-Man. Appears as part of the Clone Saga story. I know, everyone's making weird noises. Oh my goodness, the Clone Saga, one of the most hated Spider-Man runs in history. It's like, I get it, but you know, this guy is worth it.
Yeah.
Created as the original clone of Peter Parker by Miles Warren, the Jackal. Kane was actually deformed and mentally unstable. That's why he didn't stick around. That's why the Jackal never tried to use him. It was his first attempt and he was messed up. Kane actually believed that Ben Reilly was the original Spider-Man and it was Peter that was the clone. So that's why following the Clone Saga he actually leaves town and follows Ben. That's why when like Ben Reilly returns, it's Kane that's following him. Because he thinks he's the real Spider-Man and doesn't want to do anything to Peter because he thinks Peter's like him. He's a clone just like him.
Yeah.
To try and give Peter a good life, he actually starts murdering people and trying to frame Ben Reilly. Because they've got the same fingerprints, they're clones. Unfortunately, this backfires and Peter actually gets accused of it. He manages to get out of that, and he faces off with. He then decides he's going to try and assist and faces off with a number of like Spider-Man villains and stuff to try and help. This is after him having battled Spider-Man and Ben Reilly and all this stuff. Like he was a full-blown like bad guy to begin with. Eventually, after like taking on these villains and without this kind of like, you know, you said like Moon Knight to Batman like has no morals. Like Kane doesn't have the morals. He literally pummels Rhino into the ground and almost kills him.
Dang.
And it's like Peter like confronts him and says to him, look, I'm going to go public with my identity if you don't stop this.
Yeah. And
he doesn't want him to do that because he doesn't want him to hurt himself because he still feels that connection to Peter.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got it listed here. His life. He doesn't want to ruin his life, so it's like instead he agrees to go and help Ben Reilly take out all the other spider clones that the Jackal created. So he goes off on an adventure with Ben Reilly to stop them. During that time with Ben Reilly, he gets a conscience, decides to go to prison and to pay for the crimes that he's done, and then his cellular degradation that was affecting him, that caused him to be mutated, starts to worsen, and so he ends up going to hospital because he's basically dying. following the end of the Clone Saga, the death of Ben Reilly, and the reveal that Norman Osborn was behind it all, he leaves the hospital to go and hunt down Osborn. And later on, teaming with Peter Parker, he would actually like die saving Peter's life. Due to his like weird like cells though, like he would actually resurrect pretty much immediately in a new mutated form. From there he was then captured by the Jackal and further mutated, where he would Infinity Bros, you and Jarrett would get along close. Yeah, if he likes Kane, then absolutely one of the best heroes out there. So Kane's further mutations, basically it comes to a head in the big event Spider Island, one of Dan Slott's biggest events for like his Spider-Man run, where basically all the people in New York start getting turned into people with spider powers. Kane is actually fully mutated to the point of being a man spider. He has the body of a man but the head of a spider, covered in spider hairs, growing extra legs out his back, you know, the whole shebang. He's ordered to go and stop the creation of an antidote, which Peter manages to then knock him into the antidote and submerge him in it, and when he comes out he's actually a completely perfect Peter Parker clone, just like Ben Reilly was.
Oh wow.
All the degradation's gone, all the morphing to the creature's gone, his face is fixed, everything. He then obviously helps end the whole Spider Island event, and finds out he actually has some new abilities thanks to all the stuff that Jackal's done to him. And these abilities include stingers in his wrist that he can use when attacking people.
Nice.
Also as well, it turns out later in his story he can actually kind of mind control spiders a little bit, which is just a really weird random ability that they gave him. So he decides to go off and actually try the hero thing. He takes up the Scarlet Spider mantle, which obviously Ben Reilly left behind when he died, and goes to Houston, Texas to be a hero there. He has success being a hero and stuff like that, and starts to kind of, you know, he's still a jackass. He is the darker, like, jackass version of Peter Parker. He really doesn't seem to care for anyone, but like he kind of, as the story goes, starts to like forgive himself and starts to realize he can have that redemption. He even teams up with the New Warriors for a bit, and then we see him like in the Spider-Verse event. Following Spider-Verse, the series was cancelled, so he never went back to Houston, but following that, going into like the Clone Conspiracy, when the Jackal comes back and stuff, and it turns out Ben Reilly's behind it all. Kane's actually still working with one of the inheritors from the. So Spider-Man on your list too. Spider-Man, no.
Spider-Man is on my list.
Yeah,
it's on his list.
So yeah, he's actually working with one of the inheritors from after the end of the Spider-Verse arc, because they're all dead bar one, and he starts using it to try and traverse like the multiverse to try and help people, to try and help other spider people, but also finds out like this big, like, there's something big coming, this big problem, this big disease, and he thinks that in the 616, the main continuity, it's coming because of the Jackal's return. So that's when he goes there to try and help Peter and deal with that. From there, like, it's revealed Ben Reilly's behind it all, and Ben Reilly starts going through his own redemption arc, and the next time we see Kane is really just reappearing through the Scarlet Spider comic with Ben Reilly. Spiders, man. So yeah, his powers and abilities, he can do pretty much everything that Peter Parker can do, but thanks to all the genetic stuff that's taken to him, he actually has a lot of other abilities also.
Yeah.
You mentioned organic webbing, that Peter doesn't have that. Kane actually does. He's got organic webbing that he can utilize. He's got the stingers that I mentioned in his wrists. He's actually 3 times stronger than Peter Parker.
Good grief.
He can burn foes by touching them skin to skin with a special ability he's got. He can see in the dark, limited control over spiders and insects. Spider sense can't detect him, kind of same as like Venom and Carnage, obviously. And then his suit is also created from an old stealth suit, which also allows him to turn invisible and is impervious to sonic attacks. So yeah, he's very much the darker version of Peter Parker, but he's definitely a cool anti-hero and definitely got a great. Alright, see you guys tonight. Yeah, see you tonight, man. Thank you for popping in. Absolutely appreciate it. If you're not doing it already, the rest of the Comic Clan, go give the Infinity Bros a follow. They're absolute legends, and their podcast is up on iTunes and Spotify, and will actually be hopefully appearing in this week's episode, I believe. That will be going out later this week.
In, guys.
Yeah, so thanks for coming in, guys. So I absolutely adore Ken, because I love apparently what I realised from that is I love the redemption arc stories. I love guys who have struggled, who are bad, who have gone through those hardships, because it literally, like, we're literally watching with the family, because my wife and I have been watching through Avatar: The Last Airbender since it dropped to Netflix, just little by little, and like one of my favourite characters from that is Prince Zuko, and I made a complete connection with Ken for that, like the villain who realises the error of his ways and tries to make the redemption. It's like, I love redemption arcs, so I think that's why I love some of these anti-heroes so much, is because they have something to prove, and it's like, and I don't want to take it from a Christian perspective of like my own life, but like I look at my life and the mistakes I've made and the things that I've done wrong, and the fact that isn't the end of the story, the fact that that's not the end of everything, and we get to move forward from that, like I really connect with stories like that, and Kane's is 100% that story.
Dude, I gotta read some of that. I had no idea. I knew Kane Parker existed, but
his main Scarlet Spider story, I think, is Chris Yost that writes it, is like, if you want to see Kane as a hero, that's him. That's run. It's the only solo one he ever got, and
you got that on the reading list, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff in the reading recommendations for mine, like different major points and all the people I'm talking about. So you did too. So I guess I'm doing my next one then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yoshi OST, thank you so much for joining the Comic Clan, bro. Absolutely appreciate it. Thank you for coming here and be part of this. Thank you for joining. You're now officially part of the Comic Clan.
Hey, Cross, I gotta step away just for a second. I'll be right back.
No worries. Oh, sorry about that, Yoshi. It looks like Nightbot's like giving you a row. I apologise for that completely. Emote block. I'm sorry. I was like, I'll try and edit that and fix that for the next time. I've had that a couple of times. I meant to fix it already. Complete apologies for that. So yeah, for anyone that's just joining us, we're talking about our 5 favourite heroes. Let me throw up the reading recommendation list now. Actually, then Nitro's had to step away. So we put together a reading recommendation wish list on Amazon of all the stories we could find. So you can click on there and find great stories and all the heroes that we're talking about today. We've already mentioned, Nitro mentioned Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, Venom, Spider-Man, and so far I've mentioned Booster Gold, Legion, and Scarlet Spider. There we go. Sorry, I didn't want to go into it without you being here, so I chucked in the reading recommendation list in the chat. So if you want to click on that, it's a full list of all the stuff. Awesome. So my next one is, I said I didn't have any major X-Men on my list, but I do have another mutant who's X-Men, and it's actually Wolverine.
Okay.
But it's not Logan. I am talking about Wolverine / X-23 Laura Kinney. The second clone on my list, which I just realised I've got 2 clones on my list. The clone of Wolverine, clone / daughter of Wolverine. Laura Kinney is an amazingly interesting character with a great backstory. Her original appearance actually wasn't in the comics. If anyone knows like the story of Harley Quinn, how she started off in Batman the animated series, and then was brought into the comics, it's the exact same for Laura. She started off in the X-Men Evolution cartoon season 3. She made her first appearance as a clone of Wolverine, and she was received so positively that she was brought into the comics. She was brought into the comic books. Original description of the creator, bringing her into Marvel Comics, was she's Marvel Comics Pinocchio. She's a samurai sword weapon that turns into a real girl. So, oh, is your mic on? Oh, you're muted.
Yep, I'm good. Sorry about that.
There we go. So I just went. I saw you reacting. I'm like, I can't hear you.
I said that was a really cool description. I've never heard that before.
So yeah, so her original thing was, she's definitely a clone of Wolverine. So Wolverine, obviously, anyone who knows his story, I think anyone who knows superheroes knows Wolverine's story for the most part. At least the part where he escapes Weapon X, Weapon Plus, whatever the heck the name of it is now. But he escapes there, and they obviously are mad at that and want to recreate it. They want to recreate Wolverine in the lab. So they have DNA samples of him, so they decide they want to try and create it, but they're not having any success with like making a new Wolverine. So they bring in a geneticist, Sarah Kinney, who she suggests cloning Wolverine is the best idea. The problem is that the genome they have for Wolverine is damaged, and the Y chromosome is damaged. So they decide to replicate the X chromosome, and that's why Laura Kinney is a clone of Wolverine, but is female, because they replicate the X chromosome. And as most of you know, if you know biology, like double X chromosome means it's a female.
Yeah, that's why it's X2, right?
Yeah, so from there they decide to try and create her. The backers of Weapon X are against it, because they think any sort of changes is going to compromise Wolverine's clone, and it's going to make it not as powerful as a weapon. Sarah Kinney doesn't care. She decides to go ahead and duplicate it anyway and start creating it. And on her 23rd attempt, she creates a viable specimen, hence why it's X23. X representing the Weapon X program, and 23 because it's a 23rd specimen. So because she went behind everyone's back, her boss Bryce is really mad at this and says, well, you have to carry the baby to term then. You have to carry us to term. Yeah. So she actually gets implanted with the embryo and becomes the surrogate mother or actual mother, depending how you want it, because technically she's implanted with it and gives birth to it. So
yeah,
I don't know how that works for clones, but okay. So sure. She does. She carries the baby for 9 months. And when X-23 is old enough, she began she began to get trained to become a weapon. They started training her to remove her humanity. They started training her in all sorts of martial arts and fighting styles. Dr. Kinney wasn't allowed to mother her or treat her like a child in any way, but she absolutely ignored this and started treating her like a child, reading her bedtime stories. And a fun Easter egg is that one of the stories that she's seen reading to her is Pinocchio. So that's a fun Easter egg to the original awesome. Description of her. So X-23 ends up getting exposed to radiation to activate her mutant gene. Her mutant genome activates, and it gives her the exact same abilities as Wolverine. She has the same height and sense as he does. She has the same healing ability, and she has bone claws like he does. Only difference is she has 2 bone claws in her hand instead of 3.
Yeah.
But she also has a bone claw in her foot.
Yeah.
So slight differences. I don't know if that's just a case of mutations act differently, or if it's like something to do with the fact that she was female, so it happened in a different way. But it's a cool different change to it. So Bryce, the boss, decides to put adamantium on her claws, on her foot and her hands. Unlike Wolverine though, she doesn't have adamantium on her whole skeleton.
Okay.
She only has it on the claws. So,
I did not know that.
So she's still viable to be hurt in ways. Like she can still have. We see her at one point getting a limb cut off and it regrows and stuff like that. Something that'd be a lot harder to do to Wolverine, because you get to the skeleton, you stop. You can't really cut through.
Yeah.
So, so these abilities basically allow her to become one of the world's top assassins by the age of 11. By the age of 11, she's sent out on missions. She's sent on a killing spree. She's literally designed to be a weapon. But the bosses at the facility basically use her to make a power move. One thing that Laura Kinney has is a trigger scent. She's trained with a trigger scent that once she smells it, she goes into a blind rage. She can't stop. It doesn't matter if it's friend or foe, she kills them. And Bryce, the boss over Dr. Kinney, uses this to kill the head of Weapon X and make a ploy. She kills him and kills his wife, but doesn't kill their child. She has compassion on them. So Sarah realizes that Laura still has some good inside of her and decides she wants to run away with her, especially upon finding out that X-23 wasn't the last experiment. They kept pushing it, and they actually have X-24 through X-50 in the facility ready to be grown. So Sarah has X-23 destroy all of the samples, but upon going to meet her, Bryce actually puts the trigger scent on to Sarah Kinney. So when X-23 meets her outside the facility, she actually ends up killing her and kills her own mother in the snow. It's a really heartbreaking scene. Like, Sarah tells her who she is, that she's actually her mother, and tells her that her name was meant to be Laura, so actually names her before she dies, and she takes her mom's last name, so she becomes Laura Kinney. Yeah. Really, really heartbreaking scene as Laura lies down next to her in the snow and basically asks her not to leave her. And from there we actually go. This actually came out after the initial appearance in comics. The initial appearance in comics was in a series called NYX, which actually picks up after this, and it's basically Laura living life with a couple of other people and is actually living in New York as a prostitute to try and make money. Really rough series. Don't get into it if you don't want to go down that road. Like, there's a lot of rough stuff in that one. But following that, where was I? Sorry, I've lost my place on my list of stuff. So following that as well, she actually goes to meet with her and finds some of her family. She ends up staying with her aunt. It turns out the aunt's boyfriend is actually a member of the Weapon X program, though, or like one of the people running it. So tries to bring in people to hunt her down, and then kill her. But she actually ends up killing the boyfriend, and she leaves to keep her family safe. She then decides to go and hunt down Wolverine, her father, because she's basically like, there's no real life that we can have. We're weapons, so we both deserve to die. And she actually outfights Wolverine. She actually gets the better of him. Which, if you know Wolverine and his like 200 odd years of training and military experience, is like not an easy thing to do. But then again,
that's a big feat.
But then again, after 200 years, Wolverine does still jump headfirst into any fight, regardless of what it is. So
pretty much
his fighting ability might come into question a little bit. Yeah. So Wolverine basically says to her, like, if you need to, you can kill me, but I'm not going to kill you. So the two of them end up actually sitting and talking, and Wolverine reveals that Sarah sent him a message and told him about Laura. And so the two of them connect, and she decides to take up the mantle. She becomes a part of multiple teams. She ends up being part of the Thunderbolts, of Avengers Academy, even the X-Men and X-Force for a little while. And then upon the death of Wolverine, she ends up taking over the Wolverine mantle, which, if you want to read about Laura Kinney at her best, read Tom Taylor's All New Wolverine. If you have listened to this podcast, I cannot stress it enough. Tom Taylor is one of the best writers in comics today. I freaking love his writing. And his handling of X-23 and that, and in X-Men Red, where she's part of the team still as All New Wolverine, is absolutely phenomenal.
Okay.
In that story, we get to see Laura taking on a parental role in a little way, because she actually saves another clone of Wolverine, but it's a much younger clone who she calls Gabby. Who Gabby is just phenomenal. She's the kid version of Laura, so Laura takes her on as her little sister. She ends up taking on her own code name as well and becomes Honey Badger. And they also have a pet Wolverine in the department.
That's awesome.
So that storyline is absolutely awesome. That's great. Then obviously Wolverine ends up coming back, and we get Jonathan Hickman's recent run on X-Men, where he becomes Wolverine again. I disagree with this. I don't think this should have happened. I don't think Logan should have... Like, Logan coming back, I don't care. You want to do that? That's fantastic. He could easily have just been Logan.
Yeah.
She earned that Wolverine mantle. She earned it by wearing it. The fact that they took that away and made her X-23 again, like, no, X-23 is what that facility called her.
Yeah.
And she broke away from that, and she got free of all of that, and she got
a name. She has a name now.
I'm like, I don't like that they went back to X-23. But yeah, so that kind of brings us up to now. She's part of some of the stories in X-Men, most notably Fallen Angels, which, literally the only reason to read that book is the fact that she's in it. It's not a good story as far as I'm aware. Like, I literally fell off of it after about 2 issues. I'm like, I don't care. And that's sad, because I wanted to read it because she's in it, and I'm like, this is just not interesting in the least.
That's the thing with comics about, they have an awesome storyline, and somebody ends up like going away, dying or whatever, and then you kind of take the wind out of it when you bring somebody back like that. Yeah,
it's just like Wolverine's death. I'm like, that could have went on forever. Like, Laura was a great fill-in for him, and then you also had Old Man Logan in the universe for a while as well. You literally had 2 Wolverines. I'm like, that's okay. I'm not the biggest fan of the normal Wolverine. Like, some of his like solo stories are great. Like, see, whenever he's part of a team, I think he's crap, because he's just completely neutered. He doesn't do well with teams, like, even though they keep putting him on teams. And like, I prefer him on his own. His solo stories always grab me more. Yeah. So for her powers and abilities, she obviously has all the same abilities as Wolverine, as I mentioned, bar like the one claw missing from the hands, but it's in the feet. Her healing ability is apparently believed to be stronger than Wolverine's. This is believed because like he's got the adamantium in his skeleton and that affects things, whereas her skeleton's completely fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that would affect things, but apparently it does. Also, she is trained in armed and unarmed combat and can speak several languages, obviously being trained to be an assassin.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know, other than the movie Logan, I don't know anything about her. So this is super interesting.
Yeah, so she's a great character. I absolutely love Laura Kinney, and it's like she's well worth checking out. I think she's a really interesting character.
Yeah, I'm looking at your reading list, and I see the all-new Wolverine from Tom Taylor. I might actually have to pick that up.
Yeah, I put a bunch of stuff on there, and I tried to keep them grouped by the characters I was doing, just like big plot points or big stories they were involved in. Or
yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, so if you want, there's a bunch of Laura Kinney stuff on there. Definitely check it out, as well as all the other heroes that we're talking about today on that list that's in chat. If you need it popped in again, just let me know and I'll reshare it. All right, so on to your number 5 then. Who's your last hero?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that I got this up. All right, so my last hero, kind of when I was little, or he's not really a hero, but my last comic character that is my number 1, like no doubt about it. So this was one of the comics that was in, not this specific one, but this character in that box that I was referring to, that opened the gateway for me for comics for life. It's this guy right here. I know it's backwards, but it's Spawn. Now, at the time, you know, it was the big comics boom of the 90s, so you had Batman, Superman, Justice League, X-Men, Avengers.
Oh, yeah.
That was basically, those were the deals. So you had this little independent comic company, Image, who had a couple of characters at the time. Their main one was this guy. For those of you who don't know, this character was 100%, best of my knowledge, created by Todd McFarlane. Ever since he was a kid, he's been working on this. He said he would spend hundreds of hours perfecting this character. The basic gist of the story is it's about a guy named Al Simmons, who is in the Marine Corps. He gets recruited by the CIA. He goes overseas to Botswana to do like an undercover mission, and he ends up getting killed by his team, and kind of set up basically for his life as an assassin, because that's what he had become. He's actually sent to hell, and Malboja, who's one of the demons in hell, makes a deal with him and says, "If you serve me, I will let you come back." Because the only thing that Al Simmons wanted was to see his wife one more time. So Malboja was like, "All right. If you serve me, I'll let you come back, and I'll give you my powers to kind of serve me and bring people to hell, basically fill my army of hell." So you know, me being raised in a super conservative Christian home.
Was this a rebellion comic by any chance for a little bit?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. For me being raised in a super conservative Christian home, this was my outlet. This was my outlet. So it was really cool. I felt like I was getting away with something reading this. Super dark comic at the time.
Yeah.
Super gritty. I hate using that word, but it really super gritty. Like legitimately gritty.
It suits Spawn though. Like it's like there's an overused word for stuff, but Spawn suits it. It's a very gritty story. It's very like down and dirty and dark sort of story.
It's like dripping with dirt when you pick the book up.
Yeah.
But so basically he goes to hell. He gets the powers. And Malboja sends him back to Earth with basically a demon companion called the Violator, who his alter ego is a clown, basically. For those of you who've seen the movie, the awful movie from the 90s, that John Leguizamo character that's the Violator. So
why was he cast as Violator? Like seriously?
There's a debate that's actually one of the best portrayers of Violator, because in the comics he's not really that interesting, honestly. Until Greg Capullo starts getting involved with Spawn in the later issues and stuff like that, and they actually make him kind of cool. But so he all right.
Sorry, just to shout out on chat while you're talking there, Sora's saying Spawn, wow, dark. And Ad saying Spawn is amazing. I used to have the action figures when I was a kid. Yeah, like dude, Todd McFarlane like went all in on Spawn. He's got like McFarlane toys literally exist to create Spawn merchandise.
Pretty much.
That's literally all he creates for the most part.
And to kind of piggyback off that, like again, going back to the art, again, Todd McFarlane is probably one of my favorite comic book artists of all time.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I picked up issue 1 of Spawn in the 90s, literally on that cover. I had no idea what the story was about. I saw that guy in the front cover and I wanted it. Like
and
that.
if you take, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
No, you're good. Go for it, man. Go.
But if you take the first 8 episodes or issues of Spawn, and you actually are able to flip through them, I know the reading list, we have a volume 1. If you're able to flip through that volume 1, there are so many iconic splash pages and panels in those comics, man.
Yeah, they are.
Todd McFarlane is a master at creating mood in a comic. I actually have a panel that I want to show you guys. The thing with Todd McFarlane is for those of you who don't know, he's actually illustrated for both DC and Marvel. He did Incredible Hulk. He's done Amazing Spider-Man. He's drawn Wolverine. He's also drawn Batman as well. Batman is strikingly similar to Spawn.
Yeah, and an unknown really crossover of like Spawn and Batman. Actually, the crossover in the comics together. So it's like.
Come to think of it,
yeah.
I actually have the Omnibus right here. I haven't actually read it yet.
I love that cover. I love that, like the kind of Dark Knight cover of jumping through the air and just them side by side is beautiful. Oh.
Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane came together for that one, but so I just love the mood.
Back before Frank Miller went crazy.
I just love the mood that Todd McFarlane is able to kind of portray.
Oh, I love
this
this
probably
one.
It's probably one of my favorite panels of the comic. So
yeah.
It's a splash page, obviously covering 2 pages, and you can see a lot of familiar arms popping out of the cages. Now, this right here, this scene is set in hell, and basically the gist of this is the creators of these heroes are blindfolded, and they have their hands tied, and they cannot unlock their creations because they sold them. Now, this is both indicative of a comic book industry that Todd McFarlane is kind of chastising, and also of Spawn itself, because Todd McFarlane owns Spawn. He owns him 100% because he created him from the ground up. Why these other comic book creators actually kind of sold their creations off one by one. And you can obviously see Incredible Hulk, Batman. You can even see Joker, The Thing, Superman, Venom. So he's not afraid to poke the beast, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And here's another one. Again, just to show you what type of mood that he creates with his characters. There's a lot of cool stuff in Spawn too. Like
that cape is like one of the most beautiful things to be drawn. Like the way he does that cape and so many things is just amazing.
And that's the thing with the cape. The cape is actually an entity in and of itself. Like, so his superpowers basically, he can teleport, he can heal himself, like Wolverine level healing, if not better. He has superhuman strength, endurance, and then he has those chains that come out of his outfit or whatever. It's just awesome. And there's a ton of cool characters in the Spawn comics. Like there's this guy called the Redeemer, and he's basically Heaven's version of Spawn. And him and Spawn get into it a lot. Like, I don't have a picture of him up, but he looks like a knight. He's blue and gold. It looks so cool. And then Spawn eventually kills Malbolgia and becomes the King of Hell, almost like Ghost Rider. But he's an anti-hero, so he comes and he has no moral code, basically. Yeah. He just wants to see his wife. But he eventually starts becoming an actual hero. And the character is so awesome. And again, Todd McFarlane is a beast. Greg Capullo worked on Spawn a lot within the first 300 issues. For those of you who don't know, he was one of the big visual influences on Dark Knight Metal. He's worked on a lot of Marvel and DC stuff.
Yeah.
Death in the Family for Batman. So, yeah, that would be my top. Spawn is the numero uno for me.
Ad says Gravedigger was one of my favorite Spawn characters.
I don't know if I remember Gravedigger.
I'm trying to think of Gravedigger. The name definitely sounds familiar.
Yes.
And
I'm gonna look him up.
And sort of says, okay, his camera's bugging the snot out of me with the green flashes.
I know. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know if it's a connection issue or if it's the upload thing, but yeah, sorry guys.
We'll try to fix it next week. Sorry about that, guys.
We'll try to fix. Look, we have volume. You have no idea how hard we got volume going for this. Like literally every week we have volume issues. Like I cannot get his mic to come through this system, and we have to reset stuff because my computer's changed settings on its own.
Yeah,
so so we wanted to make sure you could hear us if nothing else, but we'll try and get the camera fixed as well. Like, give us a break. It's 12 episodes in, right?
we'll iron it out.
Like
all new equipment. I will.
I bought the figure when I was a kid and left it in the shop. Oh no way!
Oh, that sucks.
Oh, that sucks, bro. Oh, that's so bad. All right, so I guess I'm on to me then. My last character.
Yep.
if you know me at all, you probably know who this character is. There's another guy that's up on my wall, my absolute favourite hero, and it's like, as I said, I kind of mentioned it already, like, I love the Robins compared to Batman. Like, I love Nightwing, Red Hood, and Tim Drake. I absolutely adore them. You need to do a Dragon Ball episode.
I would love that.
Yeah, like, Nitro's been
My
pitching
favorite
that for like at least a few weeks now to do a Dragon
That's
Ball
my jam.
episode. Well, see how like you did it. We did it. Oh, here we go. Actually, for Dragon Ball, how about like what you did? I'm gonna make my confession. It's gonna get me hated. I have never seen an episode of Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, any of them. I've never seen any.
I gotta go. See ya.
So like you done a. How about this? You did a watch through of Firefly for an episode. How about I do a watch through of Dragon Ball?
Heck yes.
And give my opinion on it. Like, so you as an experienced fan and me as a complete novice to Dragon Ball. Like, I've never seen it at all.
All right. Yeah, let's do it. I'm down. I'll watch it with you.
Great. Now
I actually have them. So.
Great. Now Ads hates me. Ads is like, what? I don't know how I missed it, because apparently this was a big thing when we were kids, and I'm like, I watched all the other like anime that came over, like Pokemon and Digimon, and even all the crap stuff that was like just rip-offs of everything else I watched, but somehow I completely missed Dragon Ball.
I had the first 8 seasons, so we can make that happen.
How many seasons are there?
There's 9 for DBZ, I believe, and then you have DBZ, the new one. I forgot what it's called. Super, I think. Okay. I haven't seen any of that, but DBZ is the one you need.
Don't worry about Dragon Ball. This may take us a while to get through.
yeah. Each episode is super long, and about half the episode is them powering up. So.
Fair enough. All right, but we'll definitely put that on the ring because we're looking for other shows to do. So, like, if you guys want to see us talk about Dragon Ball, then I'm more than happy to do that. I will do that for you. That's how much I love you guys.
Hey, just as much, I love you guys too because I watch Firefly. I'm just gonna throw that in there.
Literally, he did it for the show. He doesn't even like Joss Whedon like any way. Not that that's ever came up in any of our shows at any point, but
no.
So yeah, as I was saying, like, I'll absolutely adore the Robins, but my favorite character in comics is 100% Jason Todd, Red Hood. I love this character. He is so cool. It's like he is my favorite. Okay, Sora's banned.
That's hilarious.
Just kidding. Yeah, you're not alone. But yeah, Red Hood, Jason Todd, absolutely my favourite character. I adore this character so much. I love Nightwing. I love Tim Drake. I absolutely adore them. But there's something about Jason Todd I love. I love his anti-hero status. I love the fact of, like, he's just as good as any of the other Bat characters, but has his own edge to him. I love the fact of, like, he gets himself in trouble without thinking as well, and has that kind of, like, gung-ho attitude towards stuff. But he's 100% an anti-hero. He's Batman with guns, pretty much. So what are the ad master? Ooh, shiny. But yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, Jason Todd first appeared in comics as the second Robin. His initial story has been changed drastically. So I'm going to go with like the kind of main story, the main like origin that most people kind of stand by. Between his origin, between after like Crisis on Infinite Earths, between the New 52, a lot of stuff is altered. As a lot of stories where pretty much everybody's origin was altered, bar like Batman and Green Lantern, because they were selling big at the time. But he was actually brought in as a Dick Grayson replacement, because Dick Grayson was not really appearing in Batman anymore. He was more in the Teen Titans books, and leading them, and had taken on the mantle of Nightwing at that point. Another comic I've got up there somewhere. Have you played Injustice 2? Red Hood is on that, and he's awesome. I have not played Red Hood in Injustice 2. I know the Injustice 2 game. I've not had a chance to play it yet. I do want to get it eventually. Like, literally when it came out, it was just too expensive at the time, and I've just never got a chance to get round to it. Although I've seen the storyline for it, and I love it. And I would be playing as Red Hood constantly, just... So yeah, when he was initially brought in, he was literally a rip-off of Dick Grayson. He looked just like Dick Grayson. He was an acrobat like Dick Grayson. He was all these... He was a high flyer and all that stuff. He was taken in by Batman. He was literally a rip-off, and people hated him. Like, legitimately, people hated Jason Todd because they loved Dick Grayson and they didn't want a replacement. So, after Crisis on Infinite Earths, they changed his story. His origin, the one that most people stand by, is he is basically from a rough part of Gotham. His father went to prison and was killed in prison. His mother basically was a druggie who ended up overdosing. And so Jason became an orphan on the streets, and Batman actually meets him stealing the tires off the Batmobile. He actually has 2 of the tires off the Batmobile, and Batman catches him when he comes back to get the other 2. Like, legitimately, that's his introduction. He ends up helping Jason and a bunch of other kids who are dealing with a crappy kids home, and ends up finding out about his parents' death, and ends up taking him in to be his new ward and to live in Wayne Manor. He ends up introducing him to the Batcave. He takes him down there voluntarily and starts training him, and Jason goes through a 6-month rigorous training program with Batman. During this story, depending what storyline you want to go with, his mother wasn't dead, or his real mother is actually found in the Middle East. When he goes to the Middle East to try and find her, she's actually being what's the word I'm looking for? She's being blackmailed by Joker. So when he goes to try and save her, basically Joker's caught him, and his mom ends up turning on him, and because she doesn't want to get outed and all her stuff to be destroyed, her life to be ruined. So she ends up handing Jason over to the Joker, who ends up beating the snot out of him and crowbars him near death. This was obviously is talked about plenty of times. You've probably all heard this part of it, but his death was actually a vote by the fans. The fans of the comic decided to vote. There was a call number where you could call and leave a vote to decide either to save Jason's life or to kill him, and the DC fans decided to kill him. So the fans chose him to die. So he's left there beaten and bloodied, and his mother is tied up with him. Batman is not quick enough to get there, and he is killed. So that was one of the big things. He was the equivalent of Uncle Ben and Bucky and Marvel of you do not resurrect Jason Todd.
Yeah.
And that was the case until Infinite Crisis. In Infinite Crisis, Superboy Prime punches reality. Discussion for another day.
That is a statement in and of itself.
There's no way to get into that in this and what we've got left in this podcast. That's a totally story for a different day. He punches reality, and this quakes through the whole of reality and actually resurrects Jason Todd. And he crawls out of he literally claws his way out of his grave. Jason Todd basically though has brain damage and other injuries. He's not completely himself. He's non-responsive to stuff. Bruce doesn't know this has happened. Batman doesn't know. It's actually Talia al Ghul that finds him.
Yeah. And
decides to bring him back to the League of Shadows because she thinks he can be used as a way to get to Batman. They find out he actually has retained a lot of muscle memory, so when they get people to try and attack him to see if he responds, he actually beats them down full. Okay. So he's retained that, so she actually puts him into a Lazarus pit to restore the rest of him. So Jason goes into that. He trains with the League of Shadows. He actually also has a little bit of a romantic fling with Talia al Ghul as well. And then he learns that the Joker is still alive, and he's in shock because he's like, "Why is he alive? He killed me. That should have been the last straw. He should be dead." Yeah. So he decides to take revenge on both Batman and the Joker. This initially comes in with Hush, which we talked about when we pitched our DC Universe. I talked about the Hush comic. Jason Todd appears, and it turns out it's Clayface. Apparently in the Lost Days storyline, which is in our reading list, it is actually Jason Todd that initially appears, and at some point he gets Clayface to switch out with him during the fight, so it is actually Jason Todd that makes that initial appearance there. I don't know why they felt the need to retcon that in. It just makes it a bit clunky in my opinion, but Jason then decides he's going to go back to Gotham, and has actually bestowed his iconic biker helmet, his red helmet, and his knife that he carries on him is actually given to him by Talia al Ghul. Okay. So he decides to take up the mantle of Red Hood because it's the Joker's former identity. If you read,
that's right. The glass dome.
The
dome.
Yeah. So if you read the the Killing Joke story, you see a bit of Joker's backstory, what's believed to be his main backstory, where he was basically dressed up as a character called Red Hood before he gets knocked into the vat that turns him into the Joker. Jason Todd takes up that identity. He comes back to Gotham essentially to take over the crime lords. He does this by cutting off the heads of the lieutenants of all the crime bosses and presenting them to them. So yeah. So for all the people who have ever voted, yeah, Punisher could beat Jason Todd, like right now I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm like, no, this dude could do it. So he ends up going for them, including going after Black Mask, who's one of the big crime bosses at the time. Ends up facing off with Batman and reveals himself to Batman. Batman, of course, in shock that it's Jason. And it comes down to a big confrontation. This is the storyline Under the Red Hood, which amazing comic, or also in the reading list I have put the movie for Under the Red Hood, because if you have not seen it, you have to see it. It's phenomenal.
That was my introduction to the Red Hood. I knew nothing. I didn't even know he existed when I saw that movie, and I was like, this dude is fantastic.
Yeah, if you watch that, you will fall in love with Red Hood. That's what made me fall in love with that character. Because in the end of it, he basically has Joker tied up, is about to kill him, and goes off at Batman. Like, why isn't he dead? And Batman basically tries to explain to him, it's because if I started, I wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
That's when you get the whole big thing of Batman, why he doesn't kill, is because if he started killing villains, that's a path he would never come back from.
Yeah, yep.
So he faces off with them, and the building ends up exploding, and Jason disappears for a while. Jason makes his next appearance really during the Battle for the Kill, when it's believed that Batman's dead, and attempts to take over as the Batman mantle, being a kind of armoured Batman carrying guns. Dick Grayson obviously ends up winning that, and the Batman and Robin stories ensue, where Damian Wayne's introduced. Dick Grayson takes over as Batman, and Red Hood actually changes his attire, which I didn't know until doing this, and gets a sidekick called Scarlet and goes to become a foil to Dick Grayson. The reason I probably didn't know about this is because nothing comes of it, because then the New 52 happened and everything got rebooted. So the New 52, he goes back to his original look, and he ends up getting teamed up as part of the Outlaws. The original Outlaws were Red Hood, Starfire, and Arsenal, who worked together, and I love the friendship between Red Hood and Arsenal. It's absolutely amazing. I absolutely adore it. The two of them are just really cool off of each other, but that's changed, obviously. Like, him and Arsenal did a little bit of stuff together, and then Arsenal obviously dying soon was a big factor on him too.
Yeah. Isn't Bizarro in the new one? Yeah,
so his new team is Bizarro, the Reverse Superman, and Artemis, another Amazonian, and they're actually they're the Outlaws, but they're nicknamed the Dark Trinity because they all have a link to DC's Trinity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the storyline kind of is still going on with him as part of that team. Since then, though, he has had a look change, and the book was called Red Hood Outlaw for a while, because they disappeared, and then Batman basically went bat-crap crazy, beating the snot out of Jason because he thought he killed someone when he gave him a rule not to.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I'm sorry. I kind of have issues with that, because, like, first of all, he didn't actually kill the person, it turns out.
Yeah.
Second of all, like, what gives you the right to do this stuff just because you don't go down that road? Like, you're not in charge of what he does, and I'm like, it's that thing of, like, I don't know, it comes across very like that. I'm going to control every inch of this city, and I'm like, you have literally trained up a bajillion heroes running about Gotham.
Yeah.
Do you really think they're all going to do what you do?
Yeah, they're not all clones of you.
You knew who Jason was when you brought him back into the Bat family. It's like it wasn't a surprise. Okay, and you want to know about powers and abilities for a guy who doesn't have powers and abilities? Here's why this guy is... Everyone says that Punisher could take him. I don't think so. Trained by Batman and Talia al Ghul, well versed in science, medicine, math, criminology, English, world history. This is a kid. Talia also paid for tutoring in explosives, strategies, weapons, poisons, vehicles, stealth, antitoxins, and surveillance. Master of Aikido, Capoeira, Karate, Ninjutsu, Krav Maga, Kickboxing, Taekwondo, amongst other martial arts. Main weapons he carries on him is his knife and his customized Jericho 941. He carries two of those sidearms, which that gun looks sweet looking, by the way. He's customized it though to be better off. I'm like, Jason is tooled up and can go toe to toe with anyone.
Yeah.
He's just as good as anyone in the Bat family and just as smart. he does not get enough credit, I believe, in my honest opinion. And like, he is to date my absolute favorite character. I adore Red Hood, and he doesn't get enough love.
The story is sweet. I just put Red Hood and the Outlaws New 52, or Rebirth rather, in my shopping cart. I'm definitely gonna get that.
Yeah, the Rebirth one's cool. Like, I love the relationship with him and Bizarro. Like, there's also a great romance that ends up kind of getting started up with him and Artemis, which they build up really well, and it's not out of nowhere. It's enjoyable. And then him and Bizarro. Bizarro is just such a great character in this, and it's like Artemis and Jason almost become like his parents taking care of a child, because mentally he's not a full adult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely adore it. It's just so much fun.
That's awesome.
But that's it, guys. That's our top 5 heroes from me and Nitro.
That was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that. I'm going to put the list back in the chat for anyone who missed it the first time round. Click on that Amazon list and you'll find our reading recommendations on the heroes that we talked about today that you can get on Amazon. Also, as well, remember, any of those you can also find on Comixology if you want to get the digital version of it as well. Pretty much all of them are available there too.
Yeah.
And some of them are probably actually even easier to get on there if you want to just fly through some stuff.
Yeah, some of the ones on the Amazon are a little pricier just because they're older.
Some of them are older, some of them are out of print, so you may want to go digital if you want to just catch up on it, if you're not bothered about doing digital or physical. But that's definitely up to you guys if you want to do that. So yeah, we had an amazing show this week, but I want to 100% pitch our show for next week. You guys have to be here. 2 o'clock. Next Sunday, we are going to be talking with the amazing legend Joshua Leonard, the creator of Team Supreme. Or is it just Supreme? I'm trying to remember what. There we go. Head over to Leonard Studios, check it out, get a little look for him. Joshua Leonard and Team Supreme are also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Go ahead and give them a look and give them a follow. It's a beautiful art style. He has created a cartoon focusing. Sorry. What the heck was my camera doing there?
I don't know, dude.
I turned my head and it went, you're out of focus. Like, I've not moved in 2 hours, but I'm out of focus.
Oh, man, that's funny.
But yeah, so like, he's created an amazing superhero team of kids, all of whom have disabilities of some sort. One's a paraplegic, one's blind, one's deaf, one has sickle cell disease, one has autistic. The guy who runs it all and is kind of the father figure to them has depression and wants to talk about inclusion and including people with disabilities as well as different races, different genders, different sexualities, all that stuff. He's all about inclusion. You've probably seen me posting stuff if you follow us on social media. If you're not doing that already, go ahead and follow our social media accounts to get a hold of us and watch out. I post stuff in there pretty much on a daily basis. I try to put something up. But he's going to be here talking with us next week. I am so excited to speak with him.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be an amazing talk, and I am going to also be delving into some other questions with him. I have let him know. He obviously posted recently about, we talked about it last week, about PBS putting up a story that's very similar to his, not long after he pitched his cartoon to his, and they didn't pick it up. So I am going to be asking him about that, as well as his stance with the whole Black Lives Matter and being a black creator in the midst of like all that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Because like, I want to take the chance to get a voice of an amazing black creator who can give us that insight on that obviously is 2 white dudes we do not have.
Yeah.
You know, so make sure you're here next week for that, guys, at 2 o'clock. Also keep an eye out for the Infinity Bros podcast on iTunes or Spotify, as we're going to be recording with them tonight, and that's supposed to be uploaded some point this week, so you do not want to miss that. If I look at some of the topics we're talking about, it's going to be a bunch of fun. Alright, but remember, guys, also for the giveaway, sub along to our channel between now and the end of June to be part of our giveaway to win this. Once it's completed, this is not the completed Batman artwork that Nitro has been working on. There's going to be another 10 Batman busts on it, and we're going to be giving that away. There we go. I kept hitting the wrong thing there, so that was good. I was professional up to that moment, and then I clicked things. But yeah, so we are giving that away to one of our subs to the channel. So on June 30th is the cut-off date. The show following that on July 5th, we will be picking a winner. So you want to be in with a chance for that, all you need to do is be sub to the channel. You can do that as of now. I think you need to call Chris Ranger when you cover DZ. Chris Ranger? Send me a message on social media and we'll chat about it, Sora.
Yeah.
We'll get some information.
Chris Saban. Got it.
Chris Saban.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Right? I think that's who you're talking about.
Yeah, Christina.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, so if you want to have a chance for that, definitely sub to the channel. We're going to be picking the winner on July 5th, and the cut-off being June 30th. If you sub between now and June 30th, you're guaranteed to be subbed by June 30th. So if you want a chance to win it, just hit that sub button. Alright, but I think that's us for today. You got anything else, Nitro?
No, that's it, man. This show was fantastic.
Yeah, this is a really
talking about this stuff.
This was a great show. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for everyone that came in to check us out. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day, and we will see you next week. Take care.
See y'all.